Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of DroneNation. We got some big updates today to the Hubsan Zino Mini Pro, and also another bombshell drop today. There's already another Hubsan Mini, the SE, available for pre-order, I think, right now. So, Marcus, you sent me a telegram a couple hours ago, alerting me of the Hubsan SE. I know. Do we want to update them first on the information of the Pro, and then jump over to the SE?
Yeah, short and sweet. So Ron and I and a number of other people both got an email this morning from Hubsan asking us not to cancel our orders, and
kind of a modern day Dear John letter.
Well, essentially that. My feeling is, well, we don't want to dive too deep into that, but
if you want, we'll take a deeper dive tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the live DroneNation show. Links down below.
Yeah, but suffice it to say, they're asking people not to cancel their orders, and they hope to ship by July 10th. Now, on top of that, after all that was said and done, then we get this other bombshell. We see they're releasing another version of the Hubsan Zino Mini. And this one is not the Mini Pro. It's called the Mini SE. And the odd thing about it is that
don't I know that SE from someplace else, Marcus?
That SE from someplace else, and they haven't even successfully shipped the Pro version yet, and we're already hearing about this. But Ron and I have both looked it over, and there are some significant differences in these two drones aside from price. So
and let's cover that, since that's the most important thing to a lot of our subscribers and watchers. What is the price? I'm only talking base kit now. What is the price difference between the base SE and the base Pro model?
Well, I am scrolling up. So $469 on the Pro model and $349. So $120 for the SE model. So $120 difference, which is significant. I mean, $349 is puts it
to a
in
lot of people
in
kind of some of the foreign markets. That 120 could be a big difference.
Yeah, or even domestic, I would say, Ron. Yeah. So
I just point out the foreign because we know how they seem to pay a much bigger price, premiums, duties, just higher prices in general than we do in the U.S. As drone buyers in the U.S., we kind of have it luckier than the rest of the world as far as not overpaying for the products.
I totally agree with you, Ron. So let's dig into the specs of the thing, and I'll start off, Ron. One of the first things I noticed was the difference in flight time, and that probably goes hand in hand with the battery. And so
I've got it up on the screen now, Marcus. If that's
so they're saying 45 minutes flight time.
Now what was the flight time on the Pro?
It was 40 minutes, and
so we picked up an extra 5 minutes by removing like the sensors or something.
Yeah, that blew our socks off, right? I mean, that 40 minutes, and now they're saying 45 minutes with this. That's huge. And here's where a little bit of confusion comes in, Ron. I looked at the battery specs, and on the Pro, their specs are just calling it a lithium battery. They're not saying a lithium polymer lipo. It just says lithium. But on the Zino Mini SE, they are specifically calling it a lithium ion battery. But both batteries are rated at 3,000 milliamps, Ron. But the lipo battery, and you battery experts will probably know more than me. I'm assuming it's a lipo on the Mini Pro. They're saying 7.25 volts, and the lithium ion battery, Ron's got it on the screen there right now. They're saying 8.4 volts. So you battery guys, maybe you'll be able to tell just by that. But other than that, all the specs looked very similar and the same. But there is a big difference in flight.
Yeah. So that begs the question: will these batteries be compatible between drones or not?
Don't know, do we? Yeah. I mean, yeah. How are we going to know? And listen, Ron. For all we know, they're the same battery, and they just made some. They're just they when they call it lithium on the Pro, they meant lithium ion. I mean, I don't know that. So, and
Right.
it could be just be a when they're talking about the charging voltage limitation. Could that just be a misprint or something? I don't know, but
Right, because wouldn't it, from a manufacturing standpoint, you're making a similar product. Wouldn't it save money if you just standardize the batteries across different similar models?
yeah, and the weight of the drones is the same, so I don't. Yeah, it's kind of weird. So
Yeah,
that's something that we'll have to
yeah,
look at.
yeah. This is something we'll have to pay attention to going forward here. But no, it's a good call out, Marcus. Because battery life is one of the most important things to a lot of our subscribers.
A lot of viewers, and if they get 45 minutes, that is amazing. So, Ron, I also noticed some differences in the camera.
Yeah, let me scroll back up here. I think it's the very first thing they talk about in the in the description here. Okay, here's a good one here. They're showing that it has a CMOS sensor, which is very common, and I guess that one over 1.3 is the sensor from the Pro model.
That's the Pro, right?
Which is just a third smaller than a 1-inch sensor found in a drone such as the Air 2S and the Mavic 2 Pro and the Autel Evo 2 Pro. So this one is considerably smaller, more in line with what we're seeing in the not the Hubsan, the DJI minis. I don't have the numbers.
Yeah, I believe that is the size of the DJI minis is 1/1 2.6.
Right. So. Yeah. And so we're good. We're going along. This isn't an in-depth here. This just gets you the facts and get going. So we'll cover it more in detail. Okay, one of the big things for you people out there that it only does 4K 30 rather than the 4K 60 that the Pro model does. That's the Zino Pro I'm referring to here. It does 4K 60. Now this will do 2.7K in 60, and of course 1080p in 60. But we still get they mentioned H.264. They don't say 265, which of course is kind of the standard that everything is going to in the future. It does have 100 megabytes, so that's plenty of throughput for 4K 30 video, and it takes a 12 megapixel photo rather than, I believe, the Pro takes a 20 megapixel photo.
Right. Hey, I don't want to confuse things here, Ron. Both the Pro and the SC, they're both 4K 30. The Pro is not 4K 60.
I'm sorry, I misquoted.
Yeah, no, 4K 30, but the bit rate is the big difference between the two.
Yeah, again, I don't want to misquote. Wasn't the Pro advertising 200?
100 to 200, and then the SC is 64 to 100. And then there's that difference in the codec, like you mentioned, H.265 on the Pro and H.264 on the Mini.
Which isn't a big deal to
a lot
of people, but the H.265 is kind of the way everything's going. So this is kind of using, most cameras or drones give you a choice of which one you want to use nowadays. So this is kind of like a old spec here, only offering H.264. That's not saying it could not be 2.65 could be added in the future in a firmware update.
Yeah, and Ron, I'm also wondering if some of this isn't driven by the infamous chip shortage that we're talking about. Did they have problems sourcing that bigger sensor?
Yeah. And that begs another question. Okay, since in their newsletter today or letter, Dear John letter, they talked about the chip shortage. Well, how can they be short of chips for the Pro, but somehow now they've found some old chips laying around for the Mini SE? I mean,
and that's I totally agree with you, and I do believe that it's related, Ron. I suspect that they probably had to source some different stuff, and they couldn't get maybe some of that big sensor. And
like maybe what they did is they used leftover chips from the Zino 2 series for this SE.
It's very possible. The other difference, one of the big differences that I noticed is, Ron, is in range. The Mini Pro, they're calling it Sync Lease 3, and it's 10 kilometers. This guy, they're saying Sync 2, the same system that we saw on the Zino 2, and they're claiming 6 kilometer range on it.
Right, right. Yeah, which, that's not, uncommon in the drone industry when somebody makes a budget price model that they use older technology in it.
Yeah, and really, a little mini drone, how far are you going to fly the darn thing anyway? So, I mean, I'm going to say 6 kilometers is fine. And I can tell you the sync lease on the Zeno 2 works great. So,
yeah, so that's very acceptable for a budget, a 250 under 250 gram budget drone. I have this picture up right here. I guess this is to represent the high points. We covered the sensor size. We did not cover the image transmission from the drone to your controller is 1080p 30 frames per second, which is pretty standard of high-end drones now, isn't it, Marcus?
It is, and I noticed that's the same for both versions that I saw, Ron, unless you saw something different.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're getting from our, say, Air 2 series and,
right. And from the DJI Mini.
That's more than acceptable. The 249 grams we covered, maximum flight time of 45 minutes we covered. You just covered the 6K range. We did not cover the tracking 3.0, and I believe that's the same tracking it's in the Pro version, the 3.0.
It is. The other big difference that I saw, Ron, is in the sensors, the obstacle avoidance.
Do we have any on the SE?
Yeah, so the SE is just downward only, and the Mini Pro is forwards, backwards, and down. Now, if you look at the specs that I saw on Hubsan's site, it said forward only on the SE, but I believe that's a mistake because pretty clearly you can look at the pictures and see that it has no forward sensors. There's just little grates in there where the forward sensors are on the Mini Pro.
Trying to get down to that picture again.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, they just look like air holes.
Yeah, air intakes or whatever, and that's where the sensors are on the Mini Pro. But they also talk about it does have an auxiliary LED downward-facing light to help out in low-light situations. So downward only on the Mini SE, and then the Mini Pro forward, backward, and down. So
yeah,
it's just some sensor differences. I got to be honest with you, on a mini drone like this, I don't know that obstacle avoidance is that big of a deal. Some people it is more important than others.
At this price point of $350, obstacle avoidance, the technology has become affordable enough to be put at that price of a drone. In fact, the Pro is the first drone at that its price point to offer this kind of advanced optical avoidance. So it would not be expected, but we kind of skipped over the real news. There is this guy has advanced tracking at the $350 price point.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, Ron, because I think that's important to talk about. And the FIMI Mini SE or FIMI X8 Mini.
Yeah,
I remember all these numbers.
These names.
It does have tracking as well, and I can tell you, Hubsan's tracking has always been really good, all the way back to the original Hubsan Zino. Their tracking,
which will be 3 years old this fall winter.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal. So I would expect no different out of this. But here's the thing that I'm going to warn people about: tracking without obstacle avoidance can be pretty sketchy. In other words, you're not looking at that drone and it's following you. You can lead the drone right into a building or a tree or something, as opposed to like the Mini Pro that is going to have frontward facing OA and rearward facing OA. Potentially it could save you a disaster of backing your drone into a tree or a building or something like that. So just keep that in mind. And if you're going to track with a drone like this SE version, you would only want to do it in a wide open area where there were no obstacles that the drone could run into.
And a lot of people do like to track in a wide open area, like an open field or the beach or something like that. So, I mean, it is a feature that some people actually want and would use in a safe scenario.
Yeah.
And that DJI doesn't offer on its budget price drones.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the
they
most
go.
budget price drone they ever offered some kind of obstacle avoidance on was the Spark.
Yeah. So here's the thing that I hope for, Ron, with both the Mini Pro and this Mini SE, is I sincerely hope that they have that they're stable, and that's been kind of a bugaboo of Hubsan drones. They move around quite a bit, and
Now we did get a little sneak peek from L3 Toys, who the only person I know that actually has one in the wild right now. And he did a hover test indoors between the Zino Mini Pro, not the SE, the Pro, and the one of the minis. I believe it was the Mini 2. It could have been the Mini 1. I'm not sure, but anyways, the Zino Mini performed just as well as the DJI Mini in its indoor hover test.
yeah, that was interesting. So we'll have to see. That remains to be seen. I have high hopes, and Ron, we get back into when are they going to ship the darn things, etc. When will this SE be available to ship, and so forth. So
and one footnote to L3's Toys test: he did not run the battery all the way down, so we don't know if it would have crashed at 0% battery life like the demo did.
Didn't have that infamous
yeah. But again, the ridiculous test. I never. I mean, maybe 1-2 times in my life I've ever flied a drone down to 0, and it was by total mistake. So that doesn't make any difference to me, really, what a drone does.
Let alone just having it hover inside a building, etc. So,
hey, real quick, I got this up on the screen now. We didn't touch on this yet. The SE claims to have 3 times digital zoom on it. Now we know the Pro had at least 6, maybe even better. It was, I think the Zino Pro had as much digital zoom as anything in the budget.
Yeah, I missed that, Ron. I'm glad you caught that one.
Now, does the I know the Mini 2 has a digital zoom. Does the Mini 1 have a digital zoom?
The Mini 1 does not, but the FIMI X8 Mini does, and people miss it because you have to put it into SAR mode to get to the digital zoom. Yeah.
Okay.
And then it does, but I know it's not something that they advertise much. And digital zoom, I mean, we'll just have to see how it is. I can tell you, DJI does it better than anybody. I don't know what kind of secret sauce they put into their digital zooms, but they come out pretty darn good. So
yeah. The 3-year-old Paranafi had a nice digital zoom on it. I think it had, maybe 2 or 3 stops of lossless
zoom, and then you got into where you could see the pixelation if you went further than that. But yeah, this is interesting stuff. It's exciting. It's tempered by the problems that we've seen from Hubsan getting the original one out. But I welcome anything like this that helps people get into the hobby.
Right, and if the DJI Mini 2 SE is not being sold in the U.S. We've heard a lot of rumors that it was actually a non-U.S. or non-European drone for the rest of the world. If that is true, and then this SE is offered in the U.S. and Europe, that'll be a nice opportunity for Hubsan to swoop in and basically take over a category that DJI chooses not to put a product in that they actually build.
It's possible from a specification perspective and price perspective. I'm going to agree with you, Ron. Where what remains to be seen is if Hubsan can back it up with customer service. So far, what we've seen with the Zino Mini Pro doesn't bode very well. So let's hope that they step up their game and get it going. So
in fact, this is all pure speculation here, but do you think the Zino SE is a reaction to the DJI SE? Do you think I know you don't whip product together in a few minutes, but maybe they kind of had this in the works, but they didn't know whether they were going to do anything with it or not. And then when the leaks came out that DJI had an SE, they say, hey, we had this thing around that we didn't know if we were going to actually market or not, but let's do it now.
Yeah, pure speculation on my part, Ron. But if I was a betting man, I'd say a little bit of both. it is the fact that DJI, everything with their SE, and that was kind of a market that I think Hubsan was probably hoping to get into, as you said, particularly in foreign countries. But the other part of it, I bet you, has to do with sourcing chips, particularly for that camera, and probably maybe even the CPU, because it takes more CPU power to run obstacle avoidance, etc.
Yep. The same rumors applied to DJI SE that we said about this drone, that they kind of did a lot of it out of old extra parts and whatever. They created a new drone out of, they didn't have to go out and source new chips and stuff. They just used like on the shelf parts.
Yeah. So I suspect that that's probably what this is. It's got potential to be. And
we're not putting either of these companies down for doing it. It's kind of a win-win for consumers. If you're a higher end user, you don't have to buy the SE models of either drone. You just get the better ones, but it just gives another drone for somebody that is not the customers of the more professional models.
Ron, when you talk about sensor size, if you look at what DJI does with their minis and the quality of the video that comes out of those products, sensor size is important. But if you're like me, where most of the time I'm flying in bright sunlight, it just doesn't make as big of a difference. This is kind of exciting times in the mini drone realm, which you and I both predicted. We both predicted that there would be an explosion of mini drones. So, but anyway, that's what we're seeing with the Mini SE. I didn't see any other differences. Ron, did you?
No. I think we covered most of the high points here. I mean, I went down to the bottom specs, but I think we covered them all. The battery takeoff weight, and they had the same thing with the wind.
Same motors.
You flew in the high wind. Hey, one thing I want to get back to on
same gimbal.
Yeah, on these SEs from DJI and now Hubsan, and whether Hubsan compete with DJI. The one thing, I don't know if they can compete with DJI, but if these products come out from Hubsan, I mean, even if they're not as good as DJI, they don't have to be that good to steal another a closer competitor to theirs, FIMI. If these things come out and they're kind of, for the most part, problem flip free, they're going to eat FIMI's lunch.
They will. That FIMI drone is such a disappointment, and I really wanted to like that thing, but it clearly wasn't ready for prime time when they released it.
So this may be, this may not be a shot across the bow at DJI, but it sure is at FIMI.
I totally agree.
Field of view is 80 on this, which I believe is about the same. I don't know the
84 on the Pro, 80 on this one.
Yeah, and I think that's very similar to the Air 2 series. I don't know the Minis field of view, but I know the Air. One Air is 80 and the other is maybe 84. On the two DJI Airs.
Yeah, so
the aperture's f2.2, and I believe the Pro model this was f1.8.
Well, Ron, give me just a second.
That's a standout feature because I don't think I've seen another Pro consumer drone that had a 1.8 aperture on it.
Yeah. Okay. So here I'm looking at the Pro, 1.85 on the Pro, Ron.
Yeah, so that's very unusual. I don't think any DJI drones, at least in the consumer realm, have that wide open of an aperture. So
let's a lot of light in.
Yeah, this 2.2 is perfectly acceptable for this price of drone.
So Ron, I got a question for you. So they have a specification called EFL, and on the Pro it's 6.8.
I think that kind of represents like the lens, and I think that EFL stands for effective focal limit.
Effective focal length.
Yeah, length. And they're just and the 3.5 millimeters. I think that means anything closer to that won't be in like focus.
Oh, that's possible.
Yeah, because to get that close, you're talking about, because even if you take your phone, you can't focus in on something real close to your phone, you have to back it off. So
Yeah,
and it makes sense. A drone, there's no reason a drone should be able to macro focus on something. So
yeah, they also talk about focal point too, which is half a meter to infinity, and that's the same on both.
Which is perfect on a drone's kind of like a wide angle lens on a camera. Right. You want everything in focus to infinity. So I mean, these specs, they're just putting those specs up there. That's the specs that you would expect every drone has. These mean nothing. These mean nothing to the the common drone flyer.
Yeah.
So maximum photo size, that's about right.
Yeah. So the there is a difference. So it's 8,000 by 6,000 with the Pro and 4,000 by 3,000 with the SE.
Yeah. So we covered the bit rate. Photo format, it says it only has JPEG, but I think the Pro only said it had JPEG.
Yeah, it's only JPEG as well as what it says.
Which is silly because any drone that thinks it's a professional offers RAW. So I guess maybe the programmers just haven't put that in yet.
Yeah, who knows? When they're talking about SD cards here too. That's a question I have. We know that the Pro is not going to have an SD card. Will this Mini? I don't know. But they both show this in their specs, the SD card type. So I don't know what that's
about. And this doesn't mention any type of internal storage. So I would guess that it does have a
maybe
SD card.
It does.
But again, I say that, but in the promotion for the SE, they make a big deal about the wireless transfer of files from the drone to your to the app.
And you know what? This thing will do the same thing, I believe.
So that's what I mean. This one makes a big deal about the wireless capabilities of transferring the stuff from the app to your for the drone to your phone. So maybe it does have a memory card. Maybe they're going to rely on the wireless transmission between devices.
Yeah.
But again, folks, we're totally speculating on this, which we did speculate on the Pro model when it came out. We speculated that it did not have an SD card. Then we found verbiage someplace that talked about SD cards. Then we swung to it did have an SD card, but then we shouldn't have changed our position because we were right initially. It did not have an SD card. It just comes with large internal storage. DJI usually only puts 8 gigabytes of internal storage in their professional level drones, where Hubsan was offered 64 or 128 in their Pro model. So who knows what's going to happen on the
and so listen, we can here. I'm going to tell you, I think we can shed a little light of that by looking at the Hubsan Mini SE website. On the Pro, you have to specify how much memory you want. That is not listed at all on the SE. So I think from that, we can probably deduce that it uses an SD card, Ron.
Yeah, again, playing detective, but we played detective the last time we were on. But I think we're right on this one.
Could be. I suspect they would say in here that it has 64 or whatever, and it doesn't. So if I was a betting man, I would bet on the fact that you're going to need an SD card with this guy.
Yeah, I would suspect that you would only get that internal storage on a higher end Pro model, especially at this price point. Like you said, we can't select. Hey, speaking of kitting your SE out, Hubsan, not Hubsan US or any other site, Hubsan, the official Hubsan.com website, the manufacturer, they offer various kits where you can get up to maybe 3 or 4 batteries, a case, and so on. So there are, I hate to use the DJI term, there are fly more kits available at Hubsan.com.
That's correct. Yeah, and the same thing with the Mini. You can order the Mini with a bag and extra batteries and so forth. So it's just the standard version that has 1 battery. And then, for another $65, you get 2 batteries in a bag. That'd put you at $415. I suspect that's the one you want. And then they have packages up to 4 batteries. So,
yeah. So you can kit it out anyways, which is kind of nice because DJI, they only basically most of the time they only offer one way to get a fly or a kit where you have options here, which options are always good.
The Mini SE tops out at $509 with a bag and 4 batteries. So
Which means you could fly for 90 minutes. You could fly for
180 minutes.
Yeah, 180 minutes for $500. That's a lot of flying. Hey, before we wrap up here, we do want to. We talked briefly about the Mini Pro being delayed, but we did not mention that for anybody who ordered it before June 15th, and I'm guessing they mean ordered before 15 from the mothership Hubsan.com, but I don't know that for sure. You will not only get the Hubsan Care Refresh for your drone, you also get a free bag. And I don't know if that bag's the same bag that, that Marcus and I ordered with ours, or whether this is some other bag.
They said a swag bag, I think. Isn't it? I'm trying to remember exactly what they said, but
I just remember bag, but I could have missed the swag part. But also we'll talk about this more in the live show tonight, because this is a big deal, so we want to get into it. But even in the email, they say don't do a claim through PayPal. I guess they must have who knows, hundreds of thousands of people putting PayPal claims in or whatever, and I'm sure they'll get hit hard by that. So they're kind of bribing you not to do a PayPal claim by offering the Hubsan Care in a free case. This is almost unheard of, right, Marcus?
Yeah, and they're not only this. Well, we're probably going into more detail than we intended to here, but they're talking about if you already opened a PayPal dispute, and if you'll close it today, then you'll get that free gift and the Hubsan Care. But if you wait, and you closed it tomorrow, you wouldn't get it. So anyway, interesting. They clearly want people to close those disputes, and they must have had a rash of them. And I suspect that's what drove this email that we all got today,
and frantic video,
and that video that they put out, but we can talk about that a lot.
Talk about this endlessly tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on DroneNation, and we're going to be joined tonight by the king of toy drone reviews or whatever, budget price drone reviews, Brian Singleton from the famous True Drone Reviews YouTube channel. Yeah,
he put out a great editorial video today talking about those kind of issues. It was,
and I'm sure he's going to have an interesting spin on this Hubsan snafu tonight too. So, and Johnny Droneflyer also going to make an appearance. Johnny's been kind of putting a guide together of all the drone live shows on YouTube. So I'm sure he's going to put out some channels, maybe Marcus I didn't know about, that we may want to stop by and check out going forward. So. So I kind of, that's all I have to say on this. I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited that Hubsan's making more drones or whatever. I mean, this drone, I'm not purchasing this one. I'm waiting for my Pro to come in or whatever. But I think this is an important drone for many people. Again, that price difference of $120 is a big deal to a lot of people, and I'm glad to see the Hubsan maybe slot another drone at a different price point. But I mean, my focus is still on the Pro, and I'm just hoping that that July 10th date that they put out today is what you call a rock solid date or whatever. But Marcus, what are your final thoughts on this little special?
Yeah, so it's interesting, and we all want to believe, right? We all want to believe that we can get a good viable drone out of Hubsan, and they've done some good things in the past. Recently, they've certainly let us down with the release of this Mini Pro, but hopefully, it really is kind of a wait and see thing. The other thing that I want to say, Ron, is I want to urge people that are watching this video, if you're not familiar with DroneNation and you're not already subscribed, please do so. Please subscribe to this channel. It really will help Ron and I out. We would really love to get this channel above 1,000 subscribers. So if you like this kind of content, please hit that like and subscribe.
And no promises, but if we would actually get above 1,000 and get monetized and made a few shekels around here, people ask for T-shirts and hats and swag like that. At that point, maybe we'll start generating money to actually start producing stuff like that.
Make some of that stuff happen. Totally agree.
Yeah. So I mean, and Marcus and I both intend to put more content on Drone Nation. We know that it's a struggle when you just have a channel that has one live show a week. That's a struggle. I've been doing a little bit better, posting stuff for a while besides the live show, but now I've fallen off again. So I'm going to recommit myself to maybe get at least one, recorded, a real recorded video up on Drone Nation a week besides this live show.
Perfect, Ron, and I'll do the same.
All right, folks, don't forget us tonight. And if you have any questions about the SE or whatever, ask them down below. But I warn you, most of what we know, we already just told you. Yeah. So, I don't know how good, but put them down anyways, and maybe we'll read them on the live show. We'll see you tonight. Everybody.